Prayer is the window that God has placed in the walls of our world. Leave it shut and the world is a cold, dark house. But throw back the curtains and see His light. Open the window and hear His voice. Open the window of prayer and invoke the presence of God in your world. There is a practice that is most powerful in keeping us united with God. That practice is the constant recollection of His presence. I have a certainty about eternity that is a wonderful thing, and I thank God for giving me that certainty. I do not fear death. I may fear a little bit about the process, but not death itself, because I think the moment that my spirit leaves this body, I will be in the presence of the Lord. My God, since you are with me and since, by your will, I must occupy myself with external things, please grant me the grace to remain with you, in your presence. Work with me, so that my work might be the very best. God maintains a delicate balance between keeping His existence sufficiently evident so people will know He's there and yet hiding His presence enough so that people who want to choose to ignore Him can do it. This way, their choice of destiny is really free. We may ignore, but we can nowhere evade the presence of God. The world is crowded with Him. He walks everywhere incognito. Peace comes not from the absence of trouble, but from the presence of God. The goal of faith isn't to take away your fears, but to leverage those fears to create bolder belief. Faith leads you past your fears and reassures you of God's presence. And after a while, you begin to trust that God is going to lift you above the waves this time just like He did last time. We must first peer into the darkness, feel strangled and entombed in the hopelessness of living without God, before we are ready to feel the presence of His living light. Get into the habit of dealing with God about everything. Unless in the first waking moment of the day you learn to fling the door wide back and let God in, you will work on a wrong level all day. But swing the door wide open and pray to your Father in secret, and every public thing will be stamped with the presence of God. A believer longs after God, to come into His presence, to feel His love, to feel near to Him in secret, to feel in the crowd that He is nearer than all the creatures. Ah! Dear brethren, have you ever tasted this blessedness? There is greater rest and solace to be found in the presence of God for 1 hour than in an eternity of the presence of man. Do not look for evil. Look for the goodness of God all around you. As you look for signs of His presence, many more opportunities will occur for you to bless people and share God's true nature. I drove away from my mind everything capable of spoiling the sense of the presence of God. I just make it my business to persevere in His holy presence. My soul has had an habitual, silent, secret conversation with God. The more conscious of God's presence, the more I feel like being myself. The less conscious of His presence, the more I feel I need to prove myself. The spiritual traditions of all the religions have certain similarities that are unmistakable. They share many of the same basic practices like sacred reading, spiritual guidance, moderation in eating, drinking, and sexual expression. Prayer is the key of perfection and of sovereign happiness. It is the efficacious means of getting rid of all vices and of acquiring all virtues, for the way to become perfect is to live in the presence of God. The real test of being in the presence of God is, that you either forget about yourself altogether or see yourself as a small, dirty object.